Good evening, everybody. Good evening, council. Today is Tuesday, May 16th. We are streaming tonight's meeting live on City Madison YouTube channel, and we're also archiving it. But we appreciate everybody being here tonight. It's a special night. We have lots on the agenda. We are also recognizing National Police Week, so we're very grateful for members of our law enforcement community being here tonight. Like with all of our meetings, we will start by standing and removing our hats and reciting the Lord's Prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Good evening, Council. Dan Datillo.
Here.
Chatham.
Here.
Krebs.
Here.
Tevenow.
Here.
Lucy Datillo.
Here.
And Schaefer.
Here.
Council will be at an opportunity to review the minutes from May the 3rd. If so, we will...
Hold on.
Excuse me?
Bartlett.
Here.
Oh,
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Wasn't paying attention. I thought you'd already gone through the roll call. Were you sneezing? Is that what the interruption was? Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Well, Council, our last meeting was May 3rd. Are there any changes or edits to the council meeting minutes from that date? If not, we'll ask for a motion to approve.
I move we approve the minutes from May 3rd as submitted.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. All right. As I mentioned earlier, this is National Police Week, and I've invited members of our law enforcement community who work so hard to keep our community safe. And, you know, community safety is the number one priority of our community. And whether you're EMS or fire or police, we really depend upon each of those individuals for our community safety. Tonight I want to recognize Chief Shane Caldwell from Hanover, Chief John Wallace, Madison Police Department, Sheriff Ben Flint, and ask each of them maybe to come to the podium while I read a proclamation, Your Honor. Whereas in 1962, President Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Peace Officers Day, and the calendar week in which May 15th falls is National Police Week. Established by a joint resolution of Congress in 1962, National Police Week pays special recognition to those law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty for the safety and protection of others. And whereas public safety officers of the Madison Police Department, Town of Hanover, and Jefferson County stand watch over our citizens, selflessly risking their lives to protect individuals, families, neighborhoods, and property against crime. Whereas May 15th to the 21st is observed nationally as National Police Week in honor of those law enforcement officers who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to the community or become disabled in the performance of duty. Whereas Officer Frank Knoble of the Madison Police Department and Deputy Bruce Sutton of the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department were killed in the line of duty. Whereas Madison Police Department, Jefferson County Sheriff's Department, Hanover Police, Department of Natural Resources, and the Indiana State Police, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered dedicated service to the community. Now therefore, I, Bob G. Courtney, Mayor of the City of Madison, on behalf of the citizens of Madison, do hereby proclaim May 15th to the 21st as National Police Week, and publicly salute the service of all law enforcement officers in our community. Throughout the City of Madison, we urge and encourage all citizens to take time to appreciate our public safety officers and honor all of them who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. I should have asked before I start, is any of our representatives from the Department of Natural Resources here?
Didn't see any.
Two.
Didn't see any.
Okay. And let's will say that we have not a lengthy meeting tonight, but Shane, I know that Hanover Town Council's meeting tonight too. So if any of you all need to be excused, that is, except for our sheriff, who is our sergeant of arms tonight, he might have to stick around. Thank you all for being here. Moving on, let's move to resolutions or bills.
The first resolution on the agenda tonight is Resolution 4C-2023, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, adopting the Jefferson County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan. Whereas the Common Council recognizes the threat that natural hazards pose to people and property within the City of Madison. And whereas the Common Council has prepared a multi-hazard mitigation plan, hereby known as the Jefferson County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan, in accordance with federal laws, including the Robert T. Stafford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act, as amended, and the National Flood Insurance Act of 1968, as amended, and the National Dam Safety Program Act, as amended. And whereas the Jefferson County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan identifies mitigation goals and actions to reduce or eliminate long-term risk to people and property in the City of Madison where the impacts of future hazards and disasters. Whereas adoption by the Common Council demonstrates its commitment to the hazard mitigation and achieving the goals outlined in the Jefferson County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, that Section 1, the Common Council adopts the Jefferson County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan. While content related to the City of Madison may require revisions to meet the plan approval requirements, changes occurring after the adoption will not require the City of Madison to re-adopt any further iterations of the plan. Subsequent plan updates following the approval period for this plan will require a separate adoption resolution. And the adoption plan is, the multi-hazard mitigation plan has been provided to you, and the executive summary is attached.
And I believe Jefferson County EMA Director Troy Morgan was here at last council meeting to give an overview of the necessity of this. This is a plan that's done every 5 years. There's a steering committee that is working with Director Morgan for crafting of the plan.
Okay. So if we could get a motion to approve.
I move that we approve the plan as presented.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second.
Can we do a roll call? Oh, is there any discussion? I'm sorry. Any questions or discussion from the audience? Could have a roll call vote, please?
Lucy DiTillo,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Bartlett,
Yes.
Chatham,
Yes.
Dan DiTillo,
Yes.
Krebs,
Yes.
and Tevenall.
Thank you, Council.
And we have one ordinance on first reading, and that's ordinance number 2023-10, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, repealing and replacing ordinance number 2013-2 regarding garbage collection. Whereas there's a request made upon the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, to repeal and replace Chapter 50 as it is established by ordinance number 2013-2, previously passed and adopted on April 2nd, 2013 by said council with respect to garbage collection. Whereas the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana recommends that Chapter 50 garbage collection ordinance number 2013-2 be repealed and replaced as followed. And you can see the red line and the attachment of Exhibit A that's attached there too. Whereas is in the city's best interest, whereas in the best interest of the City of Madison and its citizens, that the ordinance regarding garbage collection be repealed and replaced accordingly. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, that Chapter 50 garbage collection ordinance number 2013-2 be repealed and replaced to reflect Exhibit A as attached here too.
We have a brief overview of the issues with the transfer station operation. Tony and Gina are here. Over the course of the past several months, we've evaluated the operations of the transfer station, which has, prompted us to, bring some recommendations to council for consideration. As you know, by state statute, our duty is to operate the city transfer station in a manner that preserves its fiscal and physical state of sustainability. This is an operation that that should not depend upon any property taxes. It's all user fee driven. Many on the next slide we have relative to what a transfer station is, and some of this is really for community clarification. Transfer station operation is a utility function that disposes of solid waste, compost, and recyclables. It often operates 7 days a week. Oh, may I pause for a second? Adam Bullock, because I didn't know you were going to be able to make it, sir. Yes. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. This is Officer Adam Bullock with the Indiana State Police. Earlier we were talking about the critical role of public safety in our community. We wanted to thank each and every one of you for the role you play and the sacrifices you and your family make for the benefit of our community. I read a proclamation relative to National Police Week, and I'd like to present one for you as well. And I probably didn't. Now, what is your title, Adam?
Sergeant.
I called you officer. My apologies. Sergeant Adam Bullock, great friend of the city of Madison and a defender of Madison. So thank you so much for all of your efforts and your team here in Madison with the Indiana State Police. And I'd like to present that to you, Adam.
All right, thank you so
much
much.
for being here.
Appreciate it.
You got back from your call pretty quickly, and you dressed up for us. So thank you for that. So that essentially, in a nutshell, transfer station is responsible for the cleanliness of our community. It operates the transfer station, which is on Madison's hilltop, and picks up everything from furniture to solid waste, compost, leaves, recyclables, and has a curbside collection route, as well as individuals from Madison, Jefferson County, and elsewhere can come to the transfer station and drop off their solid waste there. The transfer station operations began in 1985 after the City of Madison landfill was closed, and the community-wide recycling and compost collection service began in 1993. So we've been at this for quite a while. I mentioned the closing of the landfill in 1985. That prompted the creation of the first ordinance for transfer station rates. In the history of the transfer station since 1985, the council and the administration has only changed transfer station rates 3 times in a 38-year history. Essentially going from 1985 to now, and then in 1996 there was an increase. But since then, it's only been about a 59-cent week increase, and has not maintained certainly the cost of operations and the services that we provide, nor does it offset the high rate of inflation that we've been enduring, particularly in the last decade. But it's certainly been rapid inflation in the last 3 to 4 years. So in 2013 was the last rate increase by the city. That's established a tonnage rate of $48 a ton, from $48 a ton in 2008 to $62 a ton in 2013. Our approach is to deal with this in phases, restore solvency back to the transfer station operation, but also establish a fee structure that would allow the city to properly invest in plant and equipment, which is critical for delivering exceptional service. COVID had a pretty dramatic impact on the transfer station operation. Prior to that, the city had relied quite heavily on contracts with the DOC crews, and they were very instrumental in assisting with our trash collection and processing operations. Because of COVID, those resources left the city and were eventually transitioned into basically doing other types of maintenance and lawn work. So that was in 2020. In 2021, we had the flash flood, which caused millions of dollars of damage and led to quite a bit of business and community disaster assistance efforts. In 2022, we started working on updating our water and improving our water infrastructure. So that consumed the entire last part of 21 and all of 2022. And then inflation since 2018 has been approximately 27% and over 90% since 1996, and it's just created a very high, unsustainable cost structure without changing the revenue and cost profile so that we can sustain the operations and invest in equipment. Next up, we have a few slides here about what the transfer station is, its images. Here you're seeing the entrance into the transfer station, and you're driving up onto the scales. The next slide, these are the steel girders that's supporting the scales and the transfer station office that's there. Next up, you have, we'll get into a capital plan here in a few minutes with regards to the age of our equipment, but more images about what our compost truck looks like. Right now, we have a single truck, compactor truck that can carry the solid waste, and then we use a separate vehicle for the collection of recyclables. And here is what the inside bays of the transfer station looks like, as well as one of our bulldozers up at the TSO. I know this, for the audience here, would be difficult to read. We're going to post this on our website, but essentially this is the financial summary. Council, there were 5 years of audited financial information that we utilized, actual operating information for 2022, and then projected information for 2023. Essentially, since 2018, the City of Madison has funded almost $700,000 in operating deficits, and if we do not address this issue and continue as it is for 2023, that number will jump up to approximately $1.1 million. Next slide is a capital plan. Let me back up for just a second. In there is also statistics relative to the amount of tonnage that's processed. City of Madison's transfer station processes almost 10,000 tons of solid waste a year, 562 tons of recyclables, and a couple hundred tons of leaf pickup. So there is a lot of processing and collection effort that requires significant labor and equipment in order to operate this transfer station to keep our community clean. And then next up here is the capital equipment. This is designed to show you the age of our equipment that's used in the trash services operation and the useful life. Many of pieces of our equipment are beyond their useful life. Many of them are date back to the 90s or the early 2000s. But it is a very capital-intensive enterprise to operate. And below there is a 5-year schedule. In 2013, when the last rate ordinance was amended, it required, I guess, a subjective funding of a capital replacement reserve. Had that capital replacement reserve been funded, we would have accrued approximately $1 million for capital investment, and we're showing that our 5-year need is a little over $1 million, $1,032,000. So we are introducing an ordinance today to deal with part of the rate structure, which is the tonnage rate for trash services trash that's being brought to the transfer station, as well as some nominal fees for curbside furniture pickup and compost bags and nominal things, extra stickers for additional trash. If we do what we recommend here, which is increase our per ton rate from $62 to $79 per ton, that's a 29% increase and tracks very closely only to the change of inflation rather than another metric would be cost of service. That, combined with realigning some wages and benefits, would reduce our annual deficit by $254,000. And then that would leave less of a deficit for 2023 that we would have to fund outside of the revenues from the transfer station. And on course with this is the capital plan that would allow us to invest in modernizing our transfer and trash collection operations, better equipment, new scales, point of sale, more effective ways and means of collecting curbside trash, but as importantly, eliminating the deficit which is required by state statute. That's the overview. We're not here tonight to talk about the actual ordinance itself. It's on first reading, but we did want to present to you what the problem and recommended solutions. I've received input from almost all of you here into this process. I appreciate that. And I'll close it with answering any questions that council might have on the presentation. Now, we'll take this up in 2 weeks when we'll have a public hearing. We'll be publishing this proposed rate that I just went over, and we'll have a public hearing at the next council meeting on June 6th.
Hearing none, we will, that'll move on to second reading.
Council, are there any reports, recommendations, or other business of the standing or select committee officers? And thank you all so much for being here. To report tonight?
The council traffic committee met yesterday here at City Hall. We had a productive meeting and put together a list of recommendations for some stop sign placement and speed limit changes that we'd like to see made around town. And we'll be getting those to everybody shortly.
That was a very productive meeting last night, I thought, with really good input. It also just described how significant many of our traffic problems are across the city. Speeding being one of the biggest ones. And in a little while, Chief Wallace, who hopefully will come back, will give a report on statistics for last year and year to date, and traffic management is one that they spend an enormous amount of time on, and it literally is just barely making a dent into the problem that the community feels is happening all across town. So I thought it was a really productive meeting, and we'll look for some solutions to some of the input from last night. Anything else, council? I'll turn the floor over to Clerk Treasurer Rampy to give you an update on Clerk Treasurer matters.
Good evening, council. 2022 is reconciled and closed, yay. I think the year ended well. We had close to $460,000 in the general fund and $19 million in the bank. SBOA is here currently auditing 2022. We are excited to actually have them here. We know they will find errors as they have in the past. However, we're eager to learn from them and improve processes and controls through their feedback. Lucy always talks about the right people at the right place at the right time. And I feel like our staff currently is those individuals. They're doing a fantastic job of learning their roles and are focused on correct processes and accuracy. And we do continue to work with 3D Financial SOE. Our goal is to get it right. And all staff are currently attending trainings as it becomes available through AIM, Aiding Indiana Municipalities, and Indiana League of Municipal Clerk Treasurers. We have hired a part-time previous clerk treasurer. Her expertise is grants and grant management. She's working with department heads to ensure that grant tracking becomes centrally managed as it is, and will continue to always be the clerk's office that is responsible for reporting and tracking requirements with SBOA. This obviously has been an issue cited in at least the last 4 audits for the city of Madison, which is why it's on our radar to improve. Budget forms have already been dispersed to department heads, as we hope to have budgets completed long before our deadline. Again, we are working with Reedy and hope to have a timeline set very soon and distributed to council as soon as we have that set. For your FYI, there's a budgeting seminar by AIM for city council members. It is May 25th. Tammy Acosta will be happy to make sure that you are registered for this virtual workshop if you would like to attend. Do you have any questions for me?
Will the fund and appropriation reports be posted online?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'd like to invite our Parks Director, Scott Klein, up to give a report.
Good evening, Council. I'd like to open my report this evening discussing personnel. We had an open position for athletic program manager that we have now filled. We hired Whitney Bertzalowskis. Whitney is from Indianapolis originally. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree from Indiana University. She holds a USA Triathlon coaching certification, has been coaching triathletes for more than 10 years. Whitney owns the fitness lab in Indianapolis and is responsible for all aspects of operating that business. She is in the process of selling that. Whitney holds certifications in first aid, CPR, and AED. She is USA Triathlon Level 2 certified for long course specialty. She's triathlete certified, youth and junior certified, and USA weightlifting certified. She's a little intimidating, I'll be honest. Prior to accepting this position, Whitney's been working with us getting the swim program underway for this summer. Another personnel-related issues, Brandon Lee resigned as superintendent of Sunrise Golf Course April 28th, and greenskeeper Chris Taylor retired effective May 3rd. We're in the process of negotiating with two individuals to fill those spots. Hopefully we'll have something here in the next day or two to fill those positions. For programming-wise, T-ball and rookie leagues have started. We have a total of about 100 kids up at Rucker playing on 4 nights a week. It's been a lot of fun, and it's been pretty exciting to see them out there playing. Men's softball league also started on May the 8th. Right now we're playing on Mondays and Wednesdays, 3 games or 6 teams for those nights. Church league will start in June, and so we'll be up there 4 nights a week, 3 games a night with men's softball. Swim program is starting on June the 5th at the high school, junior high school. We have a total of 288 swim lesson slots available. As of today, we filled half of those. They seem to be filling up very quickly now, which is great. And we also have water aerobics, which will be 4 mornings a week, starting at 9 a.m. for 8 weeks, and 24 slots there, which are full with 6 people on the waiting list. So both those programs are pretty well getting populated. Other than the swim programs, we have 17 different programs on Rec Desk right now. Some of them have multiple levels of joining, so different age groups for maybe youth baseball or football. So we have a pretty good enrollment package there. Sunrise Golf Course is picking up in their business as the weather gets better. Right now we're showing about $287,000 in annual revenue against $106,000 in expenses. That's as of May 11th. And Madison Campground is also doing very well. Revenue of about $92,000 against current year expenses of $5,200. We don't have like our normal May expenses in yet, so gas, water, sewer, some of the normal expenses we'll see. So that number, of course, will go up. But right now we're fairly revenue positive, about $87,000 for the campground. Update on a couple construction projects. Oak Hill is moving along very, very well. The playground apparatus is installed and complete. The pavilion's done. We've extended the basketball court. We're waiting to put a final lift on that. We're also waiting to put in benches and waste receptacles, drinking fountain, and then the fence around that as well. So we're actively working on that. Gaines Park is about 20% complete. The basketball court has been repaved. There is half the sidewalk from the back to the front is completed, and we do have some fence posts in, and that's about the extent of progress on Gaines Park at this time. Does anybody have any questions for me?
So relating to Sunrise, is the revenue from season passes all front-loaded, or is it spread out? So from the 287,000 revenue so far, is most of that season pass holders that the expenses
No.
are going to accumulate over the rest of the summer?
We budgeted $150,000 for season pass holders. We've almost reached that. We're finding that our play is season pass holders is maybe 30 to 40% of our total revenue. So our non-season pass revenue has picked up. So pretty much, we're going to get a few more season passes as we get through the summer. But right now, I think we've almost reached budget for that. And a lot of the revenue we're seeing now is non-season pass.
Okay.
Scott, I'm very pleased with the direction Parks is going, the programming, the staffing, recruitment that you've been able to make. The board is very engaged. Our golf board is very engaged. And, we're prepping for a great summer and a lot of planning for the fall as
Yes.
well with programming. This is an enormous amount of comprehensive programming for our parks, and I'm happy to see the direction we're heading.
Great, thank you.
And then while we're on parks, I will just mention, maybe this is a good time, I was going to save it for later, but the Crystal Beach Aquatic Park groundbreaking for that construction project will be at noon on June 13th. And then we are also coordinating having an event at Oak Hill in late June to celebrate the completion of not only the Oak Hill redevelopment, but the new Oak Hill Park that's there. We're in the process now of doing wayfinding and installation of a playground. Drive by, I mean, it's got a great look to it. I think the neighborhood up there, as well as anybody who lives in the vicinity who could use Oak Hill Park, will really enjoy the new amenities at that park. So look for more announcements on those too. You'll all get an email about that, but want to make that note too.
Great, thank you.
And if you get a chance, check out State of Madison website. Enormous amount of information there about our parks programs. You can either come to City Hall and enroll, or you can enroll at your convenience on Rec Desk and with the convenience of paying your registration fees with a credit card. All right, Chief Waltz, give a report on Madison Police Department, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Just an update on our new officers that we've hired, Jordan Blakemore, Colton Fox, Cody Short, and Aaron Watson Jr. are all in week 3 of the Law Enforcement Academy. All reports are indicating they're doing well. 2 hires just prior to them, Ryan Ware and Brad Demery, were already Tier 1 officers and have been assigned to their shifts and fitting in very well and also doing a very nice job. Our ERT, our emergency response team, we're in the process of some restructuring there under the leadership of one of our officers, Cameron Blankenship. Cameron brings a lot of experience with this type of detail from his years of service in the military. He's overseeing the program. Currently we have 14 officers that have qualified for the ERT squad. And all 14 will soon be attending it's a 40-hour 40-hour basic SWAT course in Jeffersonville. It's through the Norse program. It's a Academy certified, Academy recognized program. So when obviously they get through that, it gives our department and our ERT that much more of the credentials that they certainly need, and some outstanding instructions. It won't stop there, though. Of course, they train constantly, and they'll continue the Norse program throughout each year as they'll attend different seminars and programs there. So we're really pleased to announce that. I feel it's a very important program. They train very hard for the inevitable situations of barricaded individuals or whatever we may have in homes, but probably most importantly for our schools. They train quite often in E.O. Muncie School, the vacated school, for God forbid any unforeseen circumstances in our schools. So very fortunate to have such dedicated officers. They're willing to work hard and bring this additional security to our community. So very, very proud of them. Officer Trent Smith, one of our canine handlers, he is actually in a canine training school for the next several weeks. So once he comes back, he will actually be a canine trainer himself. I did this as the sheriff with Josh Cochran and found that we really reaped a lot of benefits from that. It'll cut that price well in half and probably close to 3/4. And we'll have him available here to teach, instruct future canine handlers and canines, both for our department and sheriff's department, or whoever may want to become involved in it. And it will pay huge dividends. It kind of ensures to me that our canine program will hopefully go on for years and years to come, well after I'm gone. This was paid for by a JCJTAP, which is the Jefferson County Justice Treatment and Prevention program here in Jefferson County. It was paid for by a grant that we sought and received from that organization. So it's hopefully it's going to be a long-term deal, but it'll pay off, I hope, big time in the long run for our community. Just some activity numbers. In April, we had 46 arrests, 121 citations, 152 warnings, 132 case reports, and 317 traffic stops for for a total of 1,026 calls for the month of April. So things are picking up. That number is up a little bit as we anticipate. When warmer weather rolls around, activities pick up. So we're ready and get these guys back from the academy and get full. We are fully staffed, but again, they're not all here available to us. But once we get everybody back, that will be a nice problem, so to speak, to deal with on where to put them. But we're excited about getting everybody back and getting them going. So with that, I have nothing else.
Chief, a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
We talked about traffic safety or traffic management earlier. You know, I'm looking at year-to-date numbers, and it's almost 1,100 traffic stops.
Yes.
That seems like I mean, it's on record relative. Last year, I think it was around 4,500. We might exceed that this year. Where are the hot spots that you're dealing with? And I know all across the community we have some issues, but
Sure.
where are you seeing trend here being with the traffic stops?
You know, I know we had a lot of concerns on East Main, you know, especially people coming to work in the morning from Kentucky or from Switzerland County and going home at night. It seemed like a little bit of a racetrack, everybody jockeying for position to get on the bridge or get to the bridge. And we've been hitting that pretty steadily with some nice comments from the folks that live in that area, and we'll continue to do that. But that certainly is, and it was a very valid concerns that they have down there. So we're hitting that area hard. And again, Main Street with our semis, that's a constant issue. However, it seems to be dropping. Some days Captain Stephan will come in and say, hey, I think we got this thing whipped. We only had one or two, and then the next day we'll have 5 or 6. So we continue to work hard on that, and he does a good job educating them as well. It's not just a citation and send them on their way. He speaks about the the GPS coordinates and gives some other information, hopefully to spread the word because our goal is not to have any. Our goal is to put him out of a job, but we'll continue to take care of that. And a lot of good compliments from the folks that live downtown. They appreciate the efforts, I think, as well, from keeping our semis out of our downtown areas.
We've got some real all-stars here, Captain Stephan being one of them, 536 citations and warnings, so he is really out there
Yeah,
looking for safety. And then enormous results from many of our younger,
Yes.
newer officers, Graham and certainly Jordan.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great numbers here.
out working hard, very
Yeah, working
dedicated,
hard.
and we hope once we get back
Cody,
to that fully staffed position that we can put back into place our traffic control officers, which we had last year. But again, our numbers are down as far as personnel available for the streets. So once we get everybody back, then hopefully we can get those back into place
I'm
as well.
looking
'Cause that
forward
was
to
pretty
having our
successful.
new recruits back for
Yes.
some foot patrol or
Yes.
getting out in the community during our festivals and
Yes.
having a presence there.
Every time I think we're there, then something happens. But it's a work in progress. But yeah, we're fully staffed now and looking forward to getting them back. So.
Any community outreach plans? I know you did a firearm safety program last year. You're in the schools, you're at the Boys Club. What's on the horizon in that front?
Yeah, and that's another thing that we was able to do with our extra staffing was to really get into the schools and have tours come to the police department so we could speak with their kids. Actually, Officer Lewis, put together a nice presentation program of the department, and really just kind of get to know the kids, and get comfortable around them, and hopefully them around us. It worked out very well. So we continue to hope to do that especially once we get back to full staff.
Awesome. Any questions for Chief?
Thank you, Council.
Chief,
Keep up the good work, Chief.
when do you expect Jared Sweet to return?
I'm sorry.
When do you,
Sweet.
yeah,
He's actually was scheduled to come back in August, but it may be September. He is actually overseas in country serving ours, so hopefully we'll have him back by August, but September at the latest. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Turn it back over to Joe we have a bill on third reading.
The next ordinance that's on third reading is ordinance number 2023-8, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, amending the zoning map of the City of Madison, Indiana, and this is dealing with the address at 3910 Michigan Road, changing it from light manufacturing to general business. So if we could have a roll call vote.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Lucy DiTillo,
Yes.
Chatham,
Yes.
Dan DiTillo,
Yes.
Bartlett,
Yes.
and Schaefer,
Yes.
and Krebs.
Yes.
The next bill that we have is a bill on second reading, and it is ordinance number 2023-9, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, repealing and replacing City of Madison Code Chapter 98, Streets and Sidewalks, and those are sections 98.01 through 98.06, 98.02 through 98.24. That bill is on second reading and is open for any comment from the council and or the public.
As mentioned, council, you have a red line that shows the portions of this ordinance that was adopted in 1966. We've explained the issue that we're having with the condition of our roads and really implementing what was designed in 1966, which was a permit process to track those who are doing excavation in City of Madison streets and right-of-ways and sidewalks. The goal here is to implement an effective permitting process, one that tracks who is doing the work, one that also establishes the standards for the backfill, which the Board of Public Works and Safety will approve per the ordinance, and one which warranties the work so that we can do our best to avoid what has become a lot of potholes or failed excavation, backfill from excavation across our community that then requires us to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars repairing the roads. Manny, do you have anything else you want to add on this, and then we'll answer any questions you might have.
I don't think I have anything to add. I'm just here if anybody has questions or we need to
We did an
discuss
overview
anything.
at the last, or not the last meeting, but the meeting prior to that. As a reference, we can put that back up on the screen if you want it, but we're happy to answer any questions anybody in council or community has about this particular proposal.
Mindy, starting off in 9803, we removed section B, which basically is the penalty for not removing snow and ice. What's the reason for that?
Because we're not gonna put a lien on somebody's house for not clearing their sidewalk.
Okay.
So it's a common, it's the right thing to do, clear your sidewalks. Clearly, we own, I mean, it's the city sidewalk, but it's not feasible to go out for the city to clear all the sidewalks after every snow and ice storm. So it's common practice that homeowners and business owners would clear sidewalks. It's the right thing to do, the nice thing to do, but we're not gonna put a lien on somebody's property for not doing it.
I guess one of the previous ones, wasn't it something about if the city removes it, there's a charge? Or I guess, is there anything?
In the original version, it
Yeah.
was if the city
Back.
did the clearing, we would place a lien for the cost of removing.
Okay, it was for a lien, yeah.
We were just saying the practical application of this is, there's a duty, by the property owner to keep their sidewalk clear. But as a practical matter, we're not out there enforcing it and clearing sidewalks. We don't have the resources to do that, and we didn't want to kind of establish the expectation we would do that.
Is
That's
there-
why we addressed that. That was from 1966.
Is there any risk for insurance purposes there, if there's a slip trip?
I think the way it was written probably had some inherent risk on the city. I mean, number one, there is no risk for not clearing sidewalk. There's what we call, there's something called inherent risk. And if there's snow and ice on the sidewalk, it's inherently slick. And if you fall and get hurt, that's on you. That's what the law is. And so, but I think the way it was written before, there was almost could potentially be argued that there was a slight expectation for the city to do something, and that should not be the case.
Okay. And then on the next page, I believe, 9806, section B, I think you made a couple of the tweaks that I had recommended, but on the second half of that sentence, block a city street or gutter, and then it kind of repeats itself right below. So I guess I propose that we amend 98.6B1A to strike block of city street gutter and to add the word "or" at the end of 98.6B1B.
Well, actually, I don't know that I would.
Do that. I would not recommend that, because I think what 96B1A is talking about making an alteration within a public right-of-way. And not, I mean, there's a potential that you could make an alteration that's not in a right-of-way. And so I think part B is also, it's a little different. I don't know that, I mean, it may be slightly repetitive, but I don't think it's necessary to remove that, honestly.
Okay.
I would probably recommend leaving it, because we do run into situations throughout the city where people think that curbs and gutters are theirs and on their property, and there's rights of ways where they shouldn't be, or there's easements where there should be right of ways and different things like that. And I think this probably covers everything as best as possible.
Okay.
So I don't know that I would do that.
Another question. I'll take the advice of counsel on this one. In the same 9806D, do we need to clarify that the insurance must cover contracted employees by the person, firm, or corporation rather than just employees? If
What
there's
section was that again, council?
9806D, the very end of it, that whole section's about the insurance that's required for the firms or people that are doing work. At the very end, it says they must show satisfactory showing of having all employees employed by the person, firm, or corporation protected under the provisions of state workers' compensation law. So do we need to clarify that any subcontracted or, I guess, non-employee individuals who are contracted by those firms or corporation or person should be covered as well? I got a markup I can hand to you, Joe, if you're,
I'm not following that.
pass that to Joe.
You're talking about, you said 9806, paragraph D,
Yeah,
9806.
sorry, 2D, 9806 2D, yeah.
9806.
Or
Two.
B2D,
B.
B2D, sorry.
Oh, 2D. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Too many subsections here.
Yeah.
So you can pass that over to him.
No, it's 98.20 is what you're under.
Did I get under the wrong one? Sorry. Just, yeah, hand that to Joe, it'll be easier.
20. There we go. 98.
My pages might be out of order.
B, it's 98.20.
Oh, B. Okay, I was looking at D. Okay. And your point was, again, do you have a recommended amendment?
My question to council is, should we add language to clarify that any subcontracted or contracted individuals fall under that same requirement, not just employees? And I've handed the markup over.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
So we're talking about this last sentence here.
Yeah.
So what you're asking, should we say, what?
Should we clarify that any contracted individual, so an employee is defined as somebody that's employed by that person, firm, or corporation, right? if somebody contracts out something, are they still responsible for ensuring?
This is talking about an individual contracts with somebody.
So individual doing the contracts with a firm, and that firm subcontracts out to a third party, is there any necessary language to be added or not? If you're satisfied that we're covered, then.
You're talking about the instance of you hire a general contractor, and that general contractor hires somebody else to do, work.
Yeah, yes.
There'd still be a contract between the city and the contractor.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're still talking about the, this is talking about the people doing the actual work on it. So I think it covers it.
Okay.
I think they're okay. I would be fine with recommending anybody stay as it is. Any other, did you have other ones, Josh?
Yeah, I'm trying to find.
Sorry.
Most of the rest of them I think will be directed to Mindy and the mayor, then I gotta find the section again. Now we're back to 9806 2D. For new driveway construction, it specifies that the material must be the same character as the connecting street or better surface. If we're crossing a sidewalk, should the driveway be the same character as the sidewalk? Is that what we're specifying here? Rather than the street?
I don't know if we need to, I mean, it needs to be the same material as whatever they're crossing. I don't know if we need to be that specific.
And if you want to add the connecting street or sidewalk, you could do that.
Okay.
So we compose the same hard surface material, the same character of the material of the connecting street.
We don't want pavement across our sidewalks.
That's your point.
So, motion that 9806 B2D be amended to add or sidewalk after the word street.
Is there a second for that?
I'll second that.
Any discussion on that amendment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Amendment passes.
Then, a couple down below, G, we're not required, so this section shall not apply to the surfacing or resurfacing of existing driveways. Do we not want people to bring driveways up to the current standards if they are resurfaced or surfaced for the first time?
I don't think we have anything related to their private property.
But this would be the same requirements as above, like, so if a new driveway is put in place, they have to match the sidewalk, have to meet all of our new standards, right? All of our construction standards for a driveway. If an existing sidewalk or driveway exists and they do work on it to surface it or resurface it, do we want them to make it up to the new standards? Because currently we're saying they don't have to. Is that,
We're saying they don't have to because they're leaving their driveway exactly the same except for the resurfacing. Rather than creating an additional burden on them, we're saying it's okay, but if you are gonna widen it, then you have to bring it up to these standards. I think it's okay as it was written myself, but we're not trying to impose, new obligations, on this particular section. We're really trying to deal with the excavation, that's causing the damage to city property.
I'm okay with that as well.
Thank you.
And then the last question was, the final two sections were deleted, the public utilities and the gravel pits. So do public utilities now fall under the same provisions as the rest of, anybody else who's working on
That's what we're
roadways? That's our
proposing, yes.
proposal?
That's why it's a right-of-way permit, so anybody doing work in the right-of-way.
Okay, and then the gravel pit, do we have anything else in our ordinances that prevent that? We deleted it because it's back from 1924. It wasn't very relevant, but is there, if somebody creates a gravel pit of sorts or a hole that's dangerous, do we have another ordinance that is preventing that? In 9824? It's called gravel pits, but it's talked about excavations in
I'd like
general.
to, maybe some time to consider that, because I would think that that would be possibly a zoning issue that would be addressed there if someone's creating a gravel pit, which would be a land use issue. I think when we evaluated this ordinance, we didn't feel it belonged there, but if we could follow up with you to see if that particular section would be covered in our zoning ordinance, that might be where it would be more appropriately placed.
I think something else, when that is looked into, is to consider not just gravel pits, but excavations of any kind, soil, rock, gravel,
Yeah, I think.
wherever it would be covered.
And I think what you're talking about is exactly right, and some of that is covered in the zoning. When we talk about, and it depends on where you are, and, it could be flood, if you're in a flood zone or different things like that, so I don't disagree that could be looked at a little closer. But I don't think that it necessarily, belongs in the, streets and sidewalks.
I did miss one. I promise this is the last one. Back up at 9806 B2C, right above where we added the or sidewalk. The last sentence says that culverts for new driveways are never to be smaller than the closest upstream culvert. So should we put a distance limit on that? If there's a culvert 1,000 feet away, I think there's a different expectation than if the culvert's 10 feet or 100 feet away. So should we clarify that with a distance exclusion?
The way I read this is that the expectation is that if you're building a driveway that's gonna go over a drainage ditch, you have to put in a culvert
Well,
of these dimensions, rather than just driving over the ditch and filling in a ditch and obstructing the flow of
Yeah, I
stormwater.
don't disagree with that at all. My question is the sizing, if you're putting in a driveway and there's a 1,000 feet upstream, there's a 3-foot culvert that may divert water in a number of different directions, do you need to have a 3-foot culvert under your driveway, which is what we're saying right now, versus a 6-inch or 12-inch culvert?
I see what your point is.
So should there be some distance exclusions there? The nearest culvert could be a very long ways away.
I guess I'd want to talk that over a little bit with Brian,
I don't disagree there. I don't have a number.
because I honestly can't think of a place, well, there probably is, but I can't really think of a place where there is that great of a distance between culverts. But I guess if it's okay with the council, I think it's fair to talk to Brian about that, to see if he has any concerns. And then if he has, we'll shoot an email out to the council and say we may bring this up, because I think it's a valid point. I just don't know if it's, I don't want to say practical, but I don't know if it makes sense to do it or not. And we can, if we need to, I mean, I guess if you want to table it, you can. But if you felt like something like that was of concern to everybody, it's not like you can take it up. It just has, at third reading, it just has some different requirements. Or
Unanimous consent at third reading.
it's just
So
Or you
unanimous
could
consent.
delete that last sentence and just rely on the fact that the building inspector is going to, based on the the drainage conditions determine if a 12-inch by 20-foot culvert is acceptable.
The sizing of the,
And then it eliminates the reference of that particular situation of having an upstream culvert that might be a different size than what you need for that driveway.
Mindy, was that the language that was already in there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's from 1966, so
yes,
pick
it
up
is.
6. Anybody get that reference?
So you tell us what you want to do with
I'm,
that, Josh.
yeah, I'm reading it and seeing if that solves my concern. So, I guess I would say if
I mean,
my proposal would be to, if we do remove that last sentence, we put the words "or as approved by the building inspector" at the end of 12 inches in diameter and 20 feet in length.
Yeah.
Just leave it in the hands of the building inspector to determine.
yeah, I mean, I guess though, I think the last thing you want is, I mean, I don't know a ton about drainage, but I know enough. You don't want to go from small, you don't want to keep getting smaller. You want to keep everything generally the same size.
So there's a sentence in here that says larger diameter and length culverts may be required by the inspector if drainage conditions so warrant.
I think it better just to cover all our bases here. I don't see any reason to remove it, and it's worked well for 60 years for us, and I don't think it's been an issue. I recommend we just leave it be.
Yeah. I've never had a.
And there may be some
I've-
subjectivity
yeah.
when the permit comes in and the building department's gonna look at it, inspector's gonna look at it and make recommendations on the size. That's generally how it's gonna work before they issue the permit.
You okay with that?
I'll leave it alone.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other questions? It's going to go on to third reading.
Moving on, we'll open the floor now to public comment. If there's anybody here who would like to address the mayor's office or city council, please come to the podium, identify your name and address, and let us know what's on your mind. And for our students in the audience, we'll just say that tonight you saw how your government works. It's a collaborative effort. We talked about services the community offers with regards to trash collection to keep our community clean. We also recognized our public safety officers who keep our community safe, which is the foundation of any successful community. You saw the back and forth with regards to, replacing an ordinance that was drafted in 1966 to solve a 2023 issue that we're trying to address. And you also saw where council and Councilman Tevenall is on our planning commission evaluating our zoning map, which happens all the time, so that land use can be determined for the most effective way for city planning purposes. So there was a lot on our agenda, as well as department reports, what's going on in parks, and certainly, what types of different levels of citations and offenses are occurring across the community that take the time and attention and commitment from our law enforcement. Before I get into mayor's comments, I'll just say, since is everybody here a senior? Who all's a senior here attending tonight's? Well, good luck in all of your future endeavors, and for those who are not seniors, will you have Mr. Barger again next year and be able to come back to city council? Great. Mr. Barger's a great teacher, and we love having our students here for city council meetings, because this is truly how your government works. There's a lot that happens between our meetings, both with councilmen who's representing their districts, and in the mayor's office who is working with various departments to keep the city running, and even a community the size of Madison operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we pay special attention to economic development and public safety, and also beautifying our community to support tourism and high quality life in Madison. So thank you all for being here. Other comments, I'll keep it brief. I mentioned earlier the Crystal Beach groundbreaking. Council, there was some interesting legislation that just wrapped up recently as the General Assembly came to a close. Quite a few bills this year that affects economic development and particularly the City of Madison's tax increment finance district. So we pay special attention to those and work through Redevelopment Commission on making sure that we're maximizing revenues and economic development opportunities. One of the things that's going to affect our budget for 2023 is General Assembly provided some property tax relief in the form of capping tax levy growth for municipalities at 4% for the next 2 years. If you recall how that generally works, is there's a rolling 6-year average relative to household income, and then that is then formulated into maximum property tax levies, and then there's also property tax exemptions and circuit breakers, as we call it, that throttle back the amount of revenue that each municipality receives from property taxes. But there are some special exemptions in this year's legislation that is going to affect our revenue for 2024 for property tax relief. A couple of other initiatives. I mentioned the TIF, but there is a residential TIF that is out there that the City of Madison is evaluating so we can promote housing development in our community. And then something that's important for tourism, something that the tourism industry has been lobbying for several years, was Senate Bill 20, and that's the enabling legislation at the state level for the city to adopt an ordinance that creates a thing called a DORA, a designated outdoor refreshment area. With all the festivals that we have in the City of Madison, that can be a tool to help us create an even more robust district and festival environment. So we're working through that state statute, and we'll determine how we can incorporate it here in the city of Madison. Our clerk treasurer was very interested in a bill that allows municipalities to prepay for purchases. That had been a restriction that inhibited some of our contracts because we were not able to pay things up front. That's been changed. And then lastly, I'll just mention Senate Bill 4, which is something I worked on very closely with the Governor's Office through the Governor's Public Health Commission. That was passed by the General Assembly and signed into law by the Governor, and that's going to create about $250 million of new revenue for our 94 local health departments across the state to bring more public health and core health services to each of the counties. So financial assistance has been greatly needed in that area. Heretofore, public health initiatives by the community has been funded by a very, very, very tiny amount of property taxes. It's a very low per capita amount. This is going to greatly enhance that. And then there was one other bill that's going to require all municipalities to have live streaming and archiving of meetings, of all public meetings. That does not go into effect until 2025. We already live stream and archive the majority of our public meetings. This statute requires the live streaming and archiving for a certain time period of all public meetings. So we're probably ahead of the curve with the capability of doing that because we have our own camera system. But there's a lead time associated with that. But we'll start figuring out how we can implement that as soon as possible so that all of our public meetings can be live streamed and archived. We still think it's great that members of our community come to the meetings. That's a great way for engagement. But we know that not everybody can be at a meeting. They like the convenience of being able to watch it and then follow up with any of our council or mayor's office afterwards, and that's certainly fine too. But there is a state statute that's going to add some more requirements on municipalities. Lastly, I'll mention we have all of our state permitting now for the work we're doing at Sunrise Crossing. The development there, we just signed a joint maintenance agreement with NDOT that's permitting us to remove the fence line, all that overgrowth there on the north side of Sunrise Crossing. So that'll be taken care of. We're doing wayfinding on the hilltop. We're also doing more gateway development up there. And then that we also received our permits. It took several months, but we've received all of our permits for the work that is involving the Culver's development. So that should, we'll have a groundbreaking for the Culver's restaurant in June sometime. And visit our website. There's plenty of information on our website. You can go to our website and see all the development we're working on, and there's a map there that shows where it's located across the community. Tremendous amount of investment happening across the city, both downtown and on the hilltop. So lots of information out there. Visit our website, be informed, call either one of us or call Scott or anybody, any one of our department heads. We also have an online report and issue module. That's really easy. I'm burning it up with my staff. I'm going on there myself, and it allows me to track things that I see and the resolution. So it's easier than ever to communicate, and tremendous amount of information for the public to consume about what's happening in their city. I will pause there, answer any questions, and thank everybody for being here tonight. Our next meeting is June 6th.
I just very quickly wanted to say, I've had some traffic concerns from people on Park Avenue because of the state detour. I know Mayor Courtney, you said you have a meeting with NDOT on Thursday? Okay, just wanted to.
They have detour signs already placed, but if you ignore the detour signs where they are up near VV, you're gonna find yourself in Madison with nowhere to go. That's why the signs are all the way back there. That's happened a few instances where those semis had to be backed up out of the construction zone. They're coming into the construction zone. I don't know what NDOT will do about that, other than the fact that, more information campaign. But it's ignoring the detour signs and driving into a construction zone is a problem.
Yeah,
But I will bring it up to them on Thursday.
appreciate that.
Yeah,
Just
you're welcome.
wanted to let the community know we've not
Yeah.
not forgotten Park Avenue.
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate your time. Well, if there are no other comments, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn.
I'll second the motion.
In favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Students, aye or nay? All right. Get out of here. Thank all of y'all.